Hey folks, how you doing? It's been a while. So today we have what is the Mer-Ka-Ba? This is intended to be at least a two-part series. So we're going to focus on the Mer-Ka-Ba, Mer-Ka-Ba fields, and Mer-Ka-Ba mechanics. Okay, so most likely three parts. All right, so we're asking the question here, what is the Mer-Ka-Ba? Well, it is a set of counter-rotating fields, electromagnetic energy spirals. All right. Now, like all structure or function that we find within the particle, within the encryption of the particle, we obviously should be able to see the Mer-Ka-Ba. And like all structure, you can. It's important as a precursor to this and chelantic science in general is that if you're studying chelantic science, you have to start with the particle. You have to start with the particle. You must be able to understand the first creation, vibration, thought, intention, which is the particle. Okay? Now, for further understanding of what this construct is from the point of origin, I would recommend the cosmic shorts. Cosmic shorts meaning that they're very short videos. The longest video is 5 minutes. That's the first one. I would recommend watching the first one at least. Anyhow, again, if you take a look at this two-dimensional image here representing the particle, particum, particle, the triune expression, you can see Mer-Ka-Ba being spelt out here, right? So this is how you're going to look at this in regard to how the Mer-Ka-Ba is found within the encryption. We're keeping it very simple. Simple's good. Simple's best. All right, so the meaning of this is bodily movement of light. That's what Mer-Ka-Ba means. So Mer-Ka-Ba, bodily movement of light. If you don't really understand the encryption of the particle, just the basics, you won't understand any of the rest because a lot of the names change according to function. Things that are the same, which we're going to touch in on that in regard to certain things, you look at a certain name given for something, and because it has a variation of function, the name's going to change. But it really is the same thing because it's of the same substance. Okay? The particle is triune in its expression, but it has many functions. Okay? That being said, let's move on in regard to Mer-Ka-Ba. So energy moves from the seventh outer layers of the auric field, that's dimensions 9 through 14, and into manifestation within dimensions 1 through 7 through the structure of Mer-Ka-Ba fields. Okay? So the consciousness bands or dimensional bands, they extend outward in an egg-like shape. Okay? Now you can see here the depiction. One is a graphic and one is a photographic representation. Okay? Taken from an actual photograph of that. What's interesting to me is the shape, the geometry in regard to the shape, because you can see it across the board within other creational models. Within, as an example, something I would like to do, and I have plans to do this, which is to do a video on Palladian science. So I digress. Anyhow, so each creational form has 15 dimensional Mer-Ka-Ba fields. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time so that it sticks, all right? Each form, because this is a source consciousness field, it's made up of particle, which are consciousness units, okay? So everything is conscious, okay? That's very important to understand. Anything that is within this field has potential of becoming fully aware of what it truly is. Okay? So each creational form has 15-dimensional Mer-Ka-Ba fields. Okay, this relates to the time matrix, okay, each holding the morphogenic imprint together within the 15-dimensional unified field or morphogenic Partakai grid. Unified field, morphogenic Partakai grid, same thing. All right, so back to the idea of form becoming aware. All right, momentarily, let's focus on that. Very important. Each form that becomes self-aware is moved to a stage or evolved to a stage of soul awareness. So let's define soul, okay? Now, if you look at the Sanskrit word for soul, it is defined as for the true or eternal self. That would be the Sanskrit word Atman or Atma, all right? Same thing, soul, same thing. So the definition is what we're looking at here. It is for the true or eternal self. That's what soul means. It's being self-aware of your true self. So again, soul awareness is simply becoming aware of one's true self that you've always been eternal. It's becoming aware of what you really are. That's what soul awareness is. That's what it means to be soul. It means to be aware of your true self. Okay? So all form has potential for that. Doesn't matter what it's made out of, because why? Because everything's made out of Partakai. Everything. True or not? True or not true? I mean, if you subscribe to this model, that has to be a true statement. There's no wavering with that. Okay? Now, how long that takes, that's irrelevant. But it all has potential. Okay? Now, let's go back to the usage of these different terms, all right, and them being of the same essence. It is important to understand when speaking of the unified field or morphogenic field, we're talking about the auric field. We're talking about the crystal body. We're talking about the manifest template. And we're talking about Huva bodies. Okay? This all being made up of primal substance, which is electrotonal units of consciousness called Partakai. Okay? So what I'm doing here is creating a foundation, all right? That one doesn't get all caught up in these different subdivisions of structure and their function so much that you lose sight of the origin for that which it is found within, that being the Partakai. Every structure, everything is to be seen within the encryption of the Partakai. Everything is to be understood from that first creation, vibration, thought, intention, which is what? It is the Partakai. There's different names for it, okay? Like I said, however, let's just focus on Partakai as being the term being used here, okay? So let's take a look at some examples here, a couple examples in regard to the meaning of Huva and the meaning of crystal body, all right? So Huva means a triadic harmonic light sound grid. All right, so let's break that down. Light sound grid. It's a light and sound construct. So light being scalar wave, sound being tonal frequency, and the grid being morphogenic Partakai grid. Okay, let's take a look at crystal body. Crystal body, the multi-dimensional morphogenic field, is collectively referred to as the crystal body. This is a crystalline latticework blueprint, sort of like a polymer, but a cosmic polymer. Anyhow, it's a crystalline latticework blueprint for the body and consciousness which is composed of ultra micro particle units called particuli. All right? So all form has a crystal body. From the smallest particle to the largest galaxies in the cosmos. Okay? Are you starting to get an idea as far as what I'm communicating here? All right? All these names given are one and the same in substance. All things are made up of, that's right, particuli. Okay, so let's refer back here momentarily to the encryption of the particuli for what we call Mer-Ka-Ba. All right? The particuli unit is a complete integrated source consciousness. That is a huge statement. You can spend a lot of time contemplating that. It is a structure through manifest intention of source. Now, I'm going to digress slightly here because I think it's important. And this is something that I've been communicating for quite a long time because I know how important it is. Your intention within this field or within this creation field, you create as creator beings through intention. This structure, this source consciousness field was created through what? Manifest intention. That's right. So the first creation vibration thought intention is the particuli, right? So it all begins and ends with intention. So there's a whole lot to be said about that. I just want to sow that seed, so to speak, within you so that you realize how important intention is. You have the ability to command and create within this construct. If you go out of the body, your thoughts immediately manifest. So it's important to be in control of what you're doing and understand how important your intention is, okay? I'm going to go ahead and read through this again, and that way we can follow context. All right, so the particuli unit is a complete integrated source consciousness, a structure through manifest intention of source. It is the smallest unit of energy substance, that is to say, electrotonal unit of conscious. The particuli replicates through polarized equal and opposite expression, that is to say, phasing. These two expressions come into manifestation and interact, which weave the structure of creation. That weave the structure of creation. Everything can be found within particuli. Okay? So let's take a look at this. Okay? Again, all structure, therefore, can be seen within the particuli. Here's 4 examples. The Ek-Ka-Sha, Mer-Ka-Ba, Kathara, Shakara. So can the Mer-Ka-Ba be seen in DNA? Well, it's in all form. It's all aspects of structure, right? Of course it is. So the answer to that would be yes. Now, when we look at the chemical makeup here, or the words that we use for how we're able to understand within the manifest expression, you know, science is looking at it from a strictly biological perspective, right? Okay, so DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. I think I pronounced that right. So this is a polymer composed of 2 polynucleotide chains that coil around each other to form a double helix. Okay, as you can see within the illustration here, we're looking at this spiral effect that's occurring that creates this double helix. What is that? Well, that is instruction that is found within the particuli that we see within the Mer-Ka-Ba being carried out, the magnetic and electrical fields creating this spiral in order to form the shape. The polymer carries genetic instructions for the development, functioning, growth, and reproduction of all known organisms and many viruses, alongside proteins, lipids, and complex carbohydrates, which are polysaccharides. Nucleic acids are one of the 4 major types of macromolecules that are essential for all known forms of life. As we can see here, DNA A is the molecular model, B is the double helix, and so 1 is hydrogen, 2 is oxygen, 3 is carbon in the helical phosphate ester chains, right? And 4 is carbon and nitrogen in the cross-linked purine and pyrimidine bases, and 5 being phosphorus. What is holding it all together? The substructure, because that's what we're talking about here, of human DNA is minuscule templates of crystallized frequency, that is electrotonal sound patterns, that's the instructions, okay, found within the particle, and electromagnetic light spectra that magnetically group into crystalline form, okay? So these tiny multi-dimensional crystalline templates are referred to as DNA seed codes. The DNA seed code template for one DNA strand is composed of 12 magnetic particle units, that's base codes, and 12 electrical antiparticle units, acceleration codes. Now, what does that remind you of? It should remind you of the Mer-Ka-Ba. It is a set of counter-rotating fields, electromagnetic energy spirals. Okay? So each DNA strand is composed of the frequency patterns and light spectra of one-dimensional band. Okay? Fire letters are made up of particum and particle. So again, what do we have there? This being magnetic and electrical polarizations that forms chelons. This is how particle becomes densified or dimensionalized. Okay? So one dimension equals one chakra, which is an energy center, which equals one DNA strand, which equals one fire code. And fire code is exactly what it sounds like. It's a code that is initiated. So again, what is particle phasing and what is scalar standing wave on and off flashing line sequences? A scalar wave is a multidimensional standing wave pattern that emanates out of a fixed point. A sound tonal vibration within the morphogenic field of the cosmic unified field of energy. Scalar waves appear to move from one place to another, but in truth, they are stationary points of light that are strung together in sequences within the fabric of the cosmic morphogenic field. So the effect, what we're seeing here, is an accurate depiction of what is occurring within the hologram. So particle phasing, the internal expansion fission, flashing on, and the contraction fusion, flashing off, of scalar standing wave points are made up of particle units. Particle phasing governs the mechanics of matter manifestation within dimensionalized frequency bands of the time matrix. Now, this is to be understood a lot simpler than the way that it's worded, but in context to what we've covered so far, I'm sure it makes pretty clear sense to you. Hopefully it does. So through Partakai phasing, harmonics of manifestation and varying levels of matter density are created. Again, we go back to the Partakai and the encryption of the Partakai. This fusion fission taking place, this phasing, it comes into manifest and it weaves the structure of creation. Okay? So this is just another way to go about saying that. So everything is a holographic projection. That is to say, it is a consciousness projection. We see the hologram because of the code held within our DNA. We become the hologram. It's through the DNA code which we're able to experience it. It's amazing, actually. So each DNA strand represents a fire letter code / scalar wave program sequence corresponding to one-dimensional frequency band of consciousness, that is to say energy, because consciousness is energy and energy is conscious. All aspects of human DNA are built upon this morphogenic template of 12 base codes and 12 acceleration codes equals 24 seed codes equals 1 DNA strand. Okay, again, base codes, acceleration codes, what is that? Mer-Ka-Ba, Mer-Ka-Ba. You'll see this repetition over and over again in regard to that being Mer-Ka-Ba, Mer-Ka-Ba fields, Mer-Ka-Ba mechanics, right? So in regard to our DNA, there is no junk DNA. It just needs stimulated for reactivation. And see, this is what the sound and light techniques is all about that I was developing. It is to stimulate dormant DNA and cause the constant within the Mer-Ka-Ba that was dormant to start reforming and go into that spiraling thing that it does, all right, through stimulation so that it can pull in the higher current, will create transmutation. Okay, so this is part 1. Blessings to you so that you may be a blessing. If you feel inspired to support what I'm doing, there's many ways to do that. You can find links within the description section here of the video and click on some of the links wherever you're led to do so. It's much needed and greatly appreciated so I can continue the work. Thank you, folks. We'll talk to you again.